All right, so prepping for a promotion manager interview, it can feel kind of like you're heading into a marketing war zone, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
But don't worry, we're going to do a deep dive into role catchers guides, and hopefully that'll help you really like conquer all those questions you might get asked and help you stand out.
Yeah, it's really not just about having the right answer. It's about showcasing like your strategic thinking and how you approach different challenges. So think of this deep dive as your interview boot camp.
I like that. Interview boot camp.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a secret weapon here, RoleCatcher's AI. That can help you tailor your responses, and you can get feedback that is specific to promotion manager roles. So no more like generic answers. This is all about you and your experience.
Yeah, exactly. And first things first, let's just, define what a promotion manager actually does. RoleCatcher emphasizes maximizing sales and brand engagement through all those point of sale programs you see everywhere. So you're creative, organized, data-driven, a leader. Does that sound like you?
It does. I think that's a pretty good summary.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into some of those interview questions then. Let's start with this one. Tell us about your experience developing and executing promotional campaigns. I feel like everybody kind of stumbles on this one.
Yeah, it's a classic, but that's why it's such a good chance to stand out. So instead of just, listing all the campaigns you've worked on, choose one that showcases your skills and like the impact you made. Maybe it was a challenging product launch or a campaign where you had to think outside the box.
Right, so like a story with a beginning, a middle, and like a killer result.
Yeah.
I like that. So what are some of the follow-up questions that they might ask about this?
Well, they might ask about like the challenges you faced during the campaign, how you overcame them, and what you learned from the experience. So for example, they might say, what were some of the obstacles you encountered during this campaign, and how did you address them?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So they're really trying to get at your problem-solving skills and like your ability to adapt.
Exactly. They might also ask how you measured the success of the campaign. Were you focused on just like website traffic and sales conversions, or did you consider the impact on brand perception and customer loyalty?
Right, so you have to tie in those metrics back to the bigger picture. How did that campaign actually move the needle for the brand?
Yeah, and this is where RoleCatcher's AI can come in handy. It can analyze job descriptions to see which metrics are most important to the company, and then you can tailor your response based on that.
That's very smart. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. Another really common one is, how do you stay up to date on industry trends and consumer behavior?
Oh, this is a good one. This is where you can really show that you're genuinely passionate about this field. Don't just like rattle off a list of industry publications. Talk about something that you're excited about, maybe a recent trend that you've noticed, or even a podcast like this one.
Yeah, you're listening. So clearly you're passionate about the industry. So I like that, showing that you're actively like learning and engaging with the industry. Now, what kind of follow-up questions could they ask about this?
Well, they might ask you to like elaborate on a specific trend and how it could potentially impact promotional strategies. So they might say, for example, you mentioned the rise of like short form video content. How do you see this trend influencing the way brands interact with customers?
That's a really good one, because now you can really showcase your strategic thinking and how you connect those dots between trends and like the practical application of them.
Right. And you can use RoleCatcher's AI to get feedback on your response too. Maybe you need to be more specific.
All right.
Or you need to give a real world example to illustrate your point.
That's like having a personalized coach to help you prep for these interviews. Okay, that's fantastic. What else? What's the next question on our list?
Let's talk about the budget. The budget question. Can you describe your experience with developing and managing a promotional budget? Now, it may not be the most exciting topic, but it's crucial for this role.
Yeah, they want to see that you can handle money.
Exactly. So don't just talk about general budgeting principles, be specific. Mention the tools and methods that you used, like spreadsheet software or project management platforms. Talk about how you prioritize spending based on data and projected ROI.
So it's really not just about crunching numbers. It's about making smart strategic decisions with the data and the insights that you have. So what are some of the follow-up questions they could ask about this?
They might ask you to describe a time when you had to make a tough decision about allocating resources or how you dealt with unexpected budget constraints. So it's your chance to show that you can adapt and that you're resourceful.
Okay, so they're really looking for you to be able to pivot and make the most of what you've got. Very important. Okay, cool. So we've covered campaign experience, staying up to date, managing budgets. What's next?
Okay, so let's dive back into these interview questions. And remember, we're not just aiming for answers. We want to showcase your promotion manager expertise.
Yes, we want to go above and beyond the basics here.
Exactly.
What question should we tackle next?
Let's talk about partnerships. This is a key aspect of a lot of promotional campaigns. And they might ask something like, can you give me an example of a successful partnership you developed to promote a product or service?
Yes, collaborations. It's all about, working well with others and making magic happen.
Exactly. Think about a partnership where both sides benefited and the outcome exceeded expectations. Highlight the role that you played in making it a success. Was it finding the perfect partner, negotiating a win-win deal, or managing the, day-to-day collaboration?
Right, so you're not just listing the partnership, you're explaining why it worked and how it was so successful. Okay, so what kind of follow-up questions could come from this?
Well, they might ask about some of the challenges you faced during the partnership and how you overcame them. Were there any, disagreements, unexpected obstacles? This is really to show your ability to navigate those complex relationships. Yeah. And find solutions.
Yeah, it's easy to talk about the wins.
Yeah.
But I think it's more impressive to show how you handle those inevitable bumps in the road.
Absolutely. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI feedback can be super valuable. It can analyze your response, and it can even suggest ways to strengthen your story. Maybe you need to, quantify the success of the partnership with some hard data, or highlight a specific skill, like your negotiation or communication skills. That really played a crucial role.
Okay, cool. So we're not just getting the answer right. We're perfecting how we deliver it. Fantastic. What is the next question on our list?
Okay, so let's get real for a second. Resources are rarely unlimited, so be ready for the question. How do you prioritize promotional campaigns when you have limited resources?
Ooh, the classic resource crunch. I feel like this is making those tough choices and really justifying your decisions.
Right, exactly. Do you prioritize based on potential ROI, alignment with the overall marketing strategy, target audience reach, or a combination of all of these factors? Explain your reasoning and demonstrate your ability to think strategically and make data-driven decisions.
So you have to show them that you could be creative but also analytical.
Yeah.
That's a powerful combination.
Yeah.
So what are some of the follow-up questions they could ask about this one?
They might ask you to describe a specific instance where you had to prioritize one campaign over another and explain the reason behind your decision. So did you have to convince stakeholders or adjust your approach based on some new data you received? They really want to see your thought process in action.
Okay, yeah. They're looking at your critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
And your ability to really advocate for your ideas.
Exactly. And once again, RoleCatcher's AI can give you feedback on this. Maybe you need to be more concise in explaining your methodology, or you need to give specific examples to illustrate your point.
It's like having a personalized interview strategist right in your pocket.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Okay, so now I want to talk about something that I think can trip a lot of people up. What happens when things don't go according to plan? What about those unexpected situations?
Yeah, well, that's where your adaptability comes in. So be prepared to answer the question. Can you describe a time when you had to pivot a promotional campaign due to unforeseen circumstances?
Okay, the curveball. Every good promotion manager, I'm sure, has experienced this. So it's all about staying calm and coming up with some creative solutions.
Exactly. So choose a situation where you had to adapt quickly and effectively. Maybe a key partnership fell through, a product launch was delayed, or a competitor made a surprise move. What was your initial plan? What was the obstacle? How did you adjust your strategy?
So you got to walk them through your thinking and highlight those really important decision-making skills. What kind of follow-up questions could they ask about this?
They might ask what you learned from this experience, how you would handle a similar situation differently in the future, or how you communicated those changes to your team and the stakeholders. It's all about demonstrating that you can learn, you can grow, and you can lead through challenges.
All right, so I'm starting to feel a lot more prepared for those interview twists and turns.
Good.
Now let's talk about another aspect I think that's very challenging in this role. Managing conflicting priorities. So be ready to answer this one. Can you give me an example of a time when you had to manage conflicting priorities in a promotional campaign?
Oh yeah, the juggling act.
Yeah.
This is where your time management and organizational skills come in.
Big time.
Absolutely. So choose a situation where you had multiple deadlines, stakeholders with different expectations, or limited resources to work with. How did you prioritize tasks? Did you delegate effectively? How did you ensure that all the pieces came together for a cohesive and successful campaign?
All right, so you want to show that you can stay organized, focused,
Yeah.
productive, even under pressure, What kind of follow-up questions might they ask about this?
They might want to know how you dealt with stress or conflict during that campaign, or how you communicated with stakeholders to make sure everyone was on the same page. They're looking for someone who can handle pressure and lead the team through those turbulent times.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, before we move on to the next question, I want to touch on something that we haven't talked about yet, which is career advancement. I know a lot of people are curious about the different paths that they can take as a promotion manager.
Yeah, that's a great point. And RoleCatcher has some good insight into this. They highlight a variety of paths you can take, from specializing in a certain area like digital marketing or brand management to moving into leadership roles, like marketing manager or director of marketing.
Okay, so you're not stuck. There's room for growth. I like that. So what advice does RoleCatcher give on how to navigate these different career paths?
Well, they emphasize the importance of continuous learning, staying ahead of the curve. This could involve taking some courses, attending industry events, or even, listening to podcasts.
Like this one.
Yeah.
Always a good idea. But how do you know which path is the right one for you?
Well, RoleCatcher suggests reflecting on your strengths, your interests, and your long-term goals. Do you enjoy the analytical side of marketing? Or are you more drawn to the creative aspects? Do you see yourself leading a team or specializing in a niche area?
So it's really about taking the time to understand yourself and where you want to go. And maybe, use RoleCatcher's AI to explore different job titles and see which ones align with your skills and aspirations.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and intentional with your career journey. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to touch on one more quality that often comes up in promotion manager interviews. It's about ensuring that you're aligning your promotional campaigns with the broader marketing and business objectives.
The big picture question. It's about showing that you're not just focused on those individual campaigns, but you understand how they fit into the company's overall strategy.
Yes, precisely. So be prepared to answer. How do you ensure that promotional campaigns are aligned with overall marketing and business objectives?
Okay, so how do we tackle this one?
Well, you can start by explaining how you connect the dots between promotional tactics and the company's goals. Do you work closely with other departments? Do you use data to inform your strategy and measure impact? Do you regularly review and adjust your approach based on the company's evolving needs?
Okay, so it's really about showing them that you're a strategic thinker who can see the bigger picture, and you understand how your work contributes to the company's success. Now, what kind of follow-up questions could they ask about this one?
Well, they might ask you to give a specific example of a time when you successfully aligned a promotional campaign with the company's goals, or how you deal with situations where there are conflicting priorities between different departments.
Right, so be prepared to showcase those collaboration skills and your ability to navigate those complex situations and your commitment to achieving those shared goals.
Exactly. And remember, RoleCatcher's AI can provide valuable feedback on your answer. Maybe you need to be more explicit in connecting your actions to the company's bottom line, or give some concrete examples of how you measure your impact.
It's like having a personal interview coach.
Yeah.
Guiding you every step of the way.
Okay, now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. Preparation is key, but so is confidence. You've got to believe in yourself, your skills, and your ability to succeed.
Yeah, and remember, RoleCatcher's here to support you every step of the way, from tailoring your answers to giving you personalized feedback.
But let's go crush those interviews.
Yes. Okay, so let's jump back into those interview questions. And remember, it's not just about answers. We really want to showcase your promotion manager expertise here.
Right, we want to go above and beyond. We don't want to just regurgitate what everyone else is going to say.
So what question do you think we should tackle next?
Let's talk about showcasing your adaptability. The marketing world changes all the time, so you want to highlight your ability to learn and evolve.
Right, so it's not just about knowing the trends now, but it's about showing that you can pick things up quickly and you're ready for anything that comes your way.
Right.
So what kind of examples do you think would resonate with interviewers?
Well, you could talk about a time when you had to master a new skill quickly. Maybe it was like a new analytics platform, or a social media strategy changed, or even like you had to learn about a new target demographics preferences.
Okay, so maybe I talk about how I taught myself influencer marketing, when that kind of exploded. Or like I became the office expert on TikTok strategy because I knew how important it was to reach Gen Z.
Yeah, exactly. It shows that you're not intimidated by new challenges. You embrace them.
Right. I like that.
Now, RoleCatcher also talks about going beyond just listing your skills. You have to demonstrate them.
Right. Show, don't tell.
Exactly.
I feel like storytelling is key here.
Yes, absolutely. Remember those interview questions we talked about? Instead of saying, I'm great at budgeting, tell a story about a time you made a tough decision about a budget and how it led to a successful campaign. You're really bringing those skills to life.
Right. So it's not, I can do this. It's, I did this, and this is what happened.
Exactly. And stories stick with people.
They do. I think that's really good advice. Okay, so now this is where I think RoleCatcher's AI gets really interesting. Remember how we talked about it analyzing job descriptions? Well, it also suggests alternative job titles that might be a good fit for you based on your skills.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you could be perfect for a role you haven't even thought of.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah, so give me an example.
Okay, so let's say you're applying for promotion manager roles. RoleCatcher might suggest you also explore something like an auction house manager or a digital marketing manager. Now, on the surface, these may seem different, but the skills that you need are very similar, like persuasion, strategy, understanding target audiences.
Wow. That's amazing. So you're really kind of expanding the map of what's possible for you.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, so let's talk about those pre-interview jitters. Everyone gets nervous before an interview. Does RoleCatcher have any advice on how to handle that?
Yeah, they suggest practicing your answers out loud, even if it feels silly. Record yourself. Get comfortable with the sound of your own voice explaining things. It can really help build your confidence.
Yeah, so it's like rehearsing for a play. The more you practice, the less stage fright you'll have.
Exactly. And here's a cool tip. You can use RoleCatcher's AI to do mock interviews. So you record yourself answering some questions, and then the AI analyzes your tone, your pace, even your facial expressions, and gives you feedback.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's like having a superpowered interview coach.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. Sometimes you get a question in an interview, and you just totally blank.
Yeah.
What do you do then?
Well, RoleCatcher recommends using the bridging technique. So you acknowledge the question, maybe you rephrase it just to give yourself a moment to think, and then you smoothly transition to a related skill or experience that you can talk about confidently.
Oh, that's sneaky. I like that. So you're staying in control and not letting one bad question, derail the whole interview.
Exactly.
That's very good advice.
And lastly, just remember that interviewing is a skill, and it gets better with practice. Every interview that you do, even if you don't get the job, is a learning experience.
That is so true. And actually, RoleCatcher lets you track all of your interviews. You know the questions you were asked, how you think you did. So it's like you're building this database of your own interview history.
Yeah.
That you can learn from.
Yeah, exactly. You're turning those experiences into data points, and you can refine your approach over time.
I love that. Okay, so what does all this mean for our listeners?
Yeah.
As we wrap up this part of our deep dive, well, you've got insights into those common promotion manager interview questions. You've got tips on how to craft amazing answers, and you've got a powerful AI tool that can help you personalize it all.
Yeah, and I think the final thought that I'd leave everyone with is curiosity is your competitive edge. The more you explore this field, the more passionate and prepared you'll be. So go beyond the expected, and you'll stand out from the crowd.
That is a perfect way to wrap up this section. Okay, so we've covered so much, all those, tricky questions, how to, really bring in your experience to those answers, and even, career paths. But I feel like RoleCatcher has some really great, next level tips that I want to unpack. What do you think?
Yeah, let's talk about them.
Okay.
Let's talk about, showcasing your adaptability. Like we said, the marketing world's constantly changing. So you really want to highlight that ability to learn and evolve.
Right. It's not just about what I know right now, but it's about showing that I'm always willing to learn new things.
Exactly.
So what kind of examples do you think would really resonate with interviewers?
You could talk about times when you had to master a new skill quickly. Like maybe it was a new analytics platform, or a social media strategy shifted, or even if you had to really dive deep and learn about a new target audience's preferences.
So maybe I'd talk about how I had to teach myself influencer marketing when that became a huge thing. Or I became the TikTok expert in the office.
Yeah.
Because I knew we needed to reach Gen Z.
Exactly. It shows you're not afraid of a challenge. You're ready to jump in and learn new things.
Yes, I like that a lot. Okay, now RoleCatcher also emphasizes, going beyond just listing your skills.
Right.
You've got to demonstrate them.
Yeah, show, don't tell.
Right. I feel like storytelling is so important here.
It is. Those interview questions we talked about? Instead of just saying, I'm great at budgeting, tell a story about a time when you made a tough budget decision. that led to a successful campaign.
Yay.
You're bringing those skills to life.
Right. It's not, I can do this.
Yeah.
It's, I did this and this is what happened.
Exactly.
Stories, I think, are just way more memorable.
I agree.
Okay, now, this is where RoleCatcher's AI gets really interesting to me. Remember how we talked about it analyzing job descriptions? It also suggests alternative job titles. That might be a good fit for you based on your skills.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you might be a perfect fit for a role you haven't even considered.
Right.
That's cool.
Exactly. So give me an example.
Okay. Let's say you're focused on the promotion manager title. RoleCatcher might suggest that you also explore being an auction house manager or a digital marketing manager. Now, these may seem different on the surface, but the core skills are very similar. You need persuasion, you need strategy, you need to understand target audiences.
Wow. That's amazing. It's like you're expanding the map of what's possible.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, so
Completely.
let's shift gears a little bit
Mhm.
and talk about those pre-interview jitters. I think everyone gets nervous before an interview. Does RoleCatcher have any advice on how to handle those nerves?
Yeah, they suggest practicing your answers out loud, even if it feels a little silly. Record yourself. Just get comfortable with hearing yourself talk and explain things. Can really build your confidence.
So it's like rehearsing for a play. The more you rehearse,
Mhm.
the less stage fright you'll have.
Exactly.
That's a good analogy.
And here's another cool tip. You can actually use RoleCatcher's AI to do mock interviews. So you record yourself answering a few questions, and the AI will actually analyze your tone, your pace, even your facial expressions, and give you feedback.
Oh, wow. It's like having a super-powered interview coach.
It is.
That's very cool. Okay, but let's be real. Sometimes you get a question in an interview, and you just blank. What do you do then?
Well, RoleCatcher recommends the bridging technique. So you acknowledge the question, and then you can rephrase it, just to buy yourself a second to think. And then you smoothly transition to a related skill or experience that you can talk about with confidence.
Oh, that's sneaky. But I like it. So you're staying in control of the conversation.
Exactly.
Very good advice.
And lastly, just remember that interviewing is a skill. And like any skill, it gets better with practice. So every interview that you do, even if you don't get the job, is a learning experience.
That's so true. And I love that RoleCatcher lets you keep track of all those interviews so you can remember the questions you were asked,
Yeah.
how you think you did. So it's like building this database of your own interview history that you can learn from.
Exactly. You're turning those experiences into data points, and then you can refine your approach over time.
I love that. That is so smart. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what does all this mean for our listeners? Well, you've gotten insights into those common promotion manager questions. You've gotten tips on how to craft those amazing answers. And you have this incredibly powerful AI tool that can help you personalize it all.
And I think the final thought I'd leave everyone with is curiosity is really your competitive edge. The more you explore this field, the more passionate and prepared you'll be. So go beyond what's expected of you, and you will definitely stand out from the crowd.
I love that. That is a perfect way to wrap up this episode. So that's it for today's deep dive on becoming a promotion manager. Remember to stay curious, keep learning, and go after those dream jobs. We'll see you next time